In October 1996, South Korea joined the OECD, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. This marked a major milestone in Korea's decades-long effort to industrialize its economy and raise its living standard. 25 years later, the country is a larger player in global economy and a leader in high-tech industries. But as recent cultural products like Parasite and Squid Game showcase, there are growing questions about whether these successes are equally shared. So what led to Korea's economic rise? And what ails society today?
The Korean economic journey started in 1962, at which time per capita GDP of Korea was only $100. Korea is now among the 7 countries in the world which have a population larger than 50 million people, and at the same time per capita GDP higher than $30,000. In my opinion, 2 key words account for Korea's unprecedented growth: industrialization and education. What stands out from Korea's industrialization is the Korean government's export-led growth strategy. Korea is not endowed with rich natural resources, and arable land accounts for just 20% of the total land. In such a condition, export-led growth strategy played an important role in the economic success of Korea. Korea's growth recently relies on heavy and chemical industries and internet and communication technologies. And these industries cannot bloom without highly trained human resources. Korean people boast a great passion for education, which enables them to contribute to Korea's fast development.
Riding on public support for industries and education, Korea's real GDP per capita rose to over $30,000 by 2011. But a shift came in 1997 when the Korean economy experienced a financial crisis that devastated smaller companies in the market. In addition, the changes Korea had to make to their labor laws as part of an international financial rescue package left more people vulnerable to sudden termination in employment. The result was growing inequality.
In the 1970s, the move to industrialization, the way that was really raising all boats, people felt they could all get ahead. Education was so important. People felt that there was tremendous opportunity. And I remember going back in the 1980s, when also the gap between rich and poor was actually pretty good on a global scale. Certainly people were getting rich, but everyone was still doing better. But then we had these changes over the last couple of decades where the inequality grew and the role of the very large companies became so much bigger in comparison to the others.
Indeed, the most serious problems that Korea is facing now are the weakening of growth potential and the worsening of economic inequality. These problems had plagued Korea even in the pre-COVID era, but have been worsened during COVID-19. Post-COVID is an era none of us has experienced in person, and uncertainty is very high. As you know, Korea's economy is heavily dependent on exports, and we must pay close attention to how fast the rest of the world recovers its purchasing power to buy from Korea at the pre-COVID level. Also, inflation in real estate value is another concern. Korea has fiscally expanded to prevent economic shock during the COVID-19 pandemic, and a large part of the infused cash flowed into the real estate market. The steep rise in real estate prices poses a threat to the economy because it led to a higher level of household debt and, more importantly, to a division of social unity. The gap between the haves and have-nots has widened during COVID-19, and we cannot move forward as a country without addressing the widening division. Polarization in income has led to depressed domestic spending, lowering the growth rate of the Korean economy, and completing the vicious cycle by worsening polarization again.
It's interesting to me living back in the United States now. In many ways, that's the debate going on in the United States now as well. We've enjoyed growth, but the issues of inequality and distribution have become greater and much more politically salient.